This is exactly one of those cases where I particularly like to use test-driven development. I find it's really useful when making data models. So let's start by writing a basic test. This is under Test, Models, User Test. And we can shut this down. I'm going to split this here. Actually, I want to do, let's do this here. There we go. And here I'm going to switch over to guard. So let's run our test suite. It's always good to make sure that we're green just to start off with. So this is the user test file generated by our Rails generate model. And since we're going to be validating these users based on things like blank values or the length of attributes, it's good to have a sanity check just to make sure that we can start off with a valid user. So let's get rid of this here. And I'm going to use the special setup area. I can do def tab. So this is a setup method. This may look familiar if you solved the exercises for chapter 3 in the Rails tutorial book. This setup method gets run before every test. So let me use it to create an instance variable. I'm going to want to use this variable in the different tests. And the way to do that is to define it with @user. And let's create a new user. I'm just going to create it in memory, and I'll save it if I need to. Save it to the test database. So that's a test user, and now I'm going to say test should be valid. And the way you might read this is a test user should be valid. I think I mentioned before that I'll sometimes use should and sometimes won't, depending on context. So in this case, I want to check that this user is valid. And the way to do that is to do, say, well, this is true if the user is valid. So let's do assert. Let's assert that that's true. You saw before when the generated test said assert true, we had this. So this will pass. Right. Just get rid of that. And so assert @user.valid should work. There we go. Okay. By the way, if you want to do this at the command line, you can do this. It's going to say rake, which should be bundle exec rake. And then you can do rake test models. So you can see that that passed. Right now there's only one test, but this is useful if you're just running the model tests.